Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Game Time Decision Podcast presented by Guy Boston Sports. I am back again to talk about what is going on this week in sports, especially with the Boston Red Sox, a little bit of Patriots, and some Celtics thoughts and NBA quick hits. But without further ado and pleasantries and getting into all this stuff, let's get into the Sox. They take 2 of 3 from the Yankees in what is the most crucial series of the year so far to date. Winning 2 of 3, even though they continually make blunders on the base path. On the base paths, their manager is, an absolute idiot. I've been saying this for the past 2 years. John Farrell needs to go. The way he's been handling the pen, not knowing what the rules of when you can take a pitcher out, and even going back to managing the clubhouse with the David Price, Dennis Eckersley story, and Pedroia, getting involved in that, and just the whole situation with that, which we're obviously not going to get into. It's an old story, but I feel like he's kind of losing the room there too. So, looking at this series, there's plenty of positives, and you're going to hear that in a lot of places. But you also can't forget that the team did show a lot of flaws during this series. A lot of flaws that I think will really hurt us come playoff time. Of course, winning a series for the first time against the Yankees this year on the road is huge. But I still can't get that Friday night game out of my mind. Just how terrible that was. I was like, oh my god, wow, we're going into the game. Erod pitched well. He deserves to get a win. I'm really impressed by what he's been doing. I'm excited. This is getting the series off on the right foot. We're in position to take 2 or 3, I thought at the time, because we had Sale going on Sunday Night Baseball. So I'm like, great, this is fantastic. And then what happens? Addison Reed comes into the game and absolutely blows it. It's not, I'm not going to say sickening to watch, but it's disheartening. That's a game that you really want to rip out. It rips out your guts. To be frank, you give up 8 runs in the bottom of the 8th inning, and you put in Joe Kelly, who had been pitching great all year, but he's coming off an injury, and you put him in that high leverage situation when, honestly, you're coming into that game with a day off, so I assume everyone in your bullpen's available, and you don't put in Craig Kimbrel. That is what is bewildering to me, because the way that inning shook out with Reed giving up the home run to Hicks and then letting runners on, wild pitch, so on and so forth, wouldn't you think you put the guy who has been, in my opinion, the best reliever in baseball this year, by the stats opinion, just not the stats don't have opinions, but just by the numbers, the best reliever in the game this year in Craig Kimbrel? But this is another flaw that's being very overlooked with the Red Sox. And I think it's partially has to do with Farrell, but I think it has a lot to do with Craig Kimbrel and his makeup. You get him in the 9th inning in a save situation, like last night. He was lights out in the getting a 4-out save. And I'm not gonna say that he can't get 4-out saves, because he can, but he won't come in if he is not the person who's supposed to finish the game. Obviously, in a tie game coming into the 9th, he can. It doesn't seem like he likes it that much, but I don't think he'd like to come into a game before without 2 outs in the 8th or later. And I would have rather seen Kimbrel come in, and now it's not guaranteed he would have got out of that jam. That jam was a jam and a half. I think it was runners on 2nd and 3rd with no outs, or 1st and 3rd, whatever. It was probably the toughest jam you can have as a pitcher. I'm not saying he would have got out of it, but I would rather have gone with, I think it was first and second. I would have rather have gone with my best guy, up 1 run in the bottom of the 8th, and then let Kelly, or whoever, Barnes had already been used, Reed had already been used, but let Kelly, Robbie Scott, whoever, come into that game, face the bottom of the lineup nonetheless, because Judge was on base at the time, so it would have been Kimbrel facing Gregorius, Frazier, and Headley, and maybe Ellsbury after that. So I would have taken my chances with that, and then let Kelly come in in the 9th. And I know it would have stolen one of Craig Kimbrel's precious saves, but I think a W is way more important. And then let Kimbrel take care of Torreyes or Ellsbury, and he would have had to face, I think, Gardner. But either way, it would have been a lot easier and given us a better chance to win. But I think that goes down to John Farrell and Craig Kimbrel. Going back to Jared Carrabis' story that Dave Dombrowski said Barstool Sports and Jared Carrabis have no credibility, which is absolutely false. He has no credibility, and he really angered El Presidente, Dave Portnoy. Not going to get into that, but you don't disrespect the stool. But besides the point, Carrabis had reported that Kimbrel, and not Kimbrel himself per se, but trainers were saying that Farrell was overusing Kimbrel, putting him in situations he wasn't comfortable in, yada, yada, yada. I think they were kind of like puppets for Kimbrel. And then you go in to the bottom of the 9th, or the top of the 9th, I'm sorry. You have Bradley walked, Nunez walked, and then you have the bases loaded on a walk. And then Benintendi hits the sac fly. So you have bases loaded, no outs. And what happens? Benintendi hits the sac fly. And Bradley scores. And then Nunez gets tagged out at third. Why do you tag up on a fly out to third base? I think it was hit to left field. Why do you do that? This team has run into so many outs between Brock Holt getting thrown out, Benintendi, Hanley, just across the board. It's just unbelievable. I'm trying to look up the stat. Just seeing this team. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering because it's just so. It makes me irate. You lose. Professional teams should not lose games on the base paths. That happens in Little League. If that happened at high school baseball level, that coach would be making those kids run laps nonstop, push-ups, whatever it takes, running into outs. A talented team in first place in the American League East, a team with the best pitcher in baseball. Yes, I said it. Chris Sale is the best pitcher in baseball. That team should not be costing games, losing games on the base paths. Listen, I'm sorry. Between the bottom of that 8th inning and the top of that 9th, that really showed what this team is about and that fatal flaw. And of course they showed resiliency, putting up a crooked number against Severino on Saturday, and then having Sale pitch great, and he should have got the win. That game should have never gone to extra innings. But, of course, Mookie Betts wasn't technically an error. Makes an error. If you saw that play, that's an error play. Mookie Betts, the best outfielder in the game. Fenway Park, toughest right field. Mookie Betts plays it the best. Makes an error and costs the Red Sox a run, which is really sad for Chris Sale. And I just want to say, Chris Sale, you are the best. I love you. And we don't deserve you. And at the time, obviously, I knew Chris Sale was great. And I expected him to be close to this. I'm not going to say I expected him to be this good because his career track record is dominant, but his ERA is usually in the 3s and so on and so forth. I didn't expect him to be this good. I expected him to be like great, but not like Pedro Martinez-esque great. But this run that he's been on has just been unbelievable. And at the time of the trade, I was excited, but I was a little leery of giving up these prospects, considering of all the moves Dombrowski had made before. But he's been worth every single guy you've given up. You got to keep Benintendi, who's been on an absolute tear. I just thought of this just now, spur of the moment. New little part of the podcast, Star of the Week. This will go for all sports. This week, star for the Red Sox. Co-stars, you got Andrew Benintendi, who's batting like .480 this month with 4 homers, hit 2 dingers on Saturday. First star of the month got the game-winning RBI yesterday. And then Rafi Devers, of course, 102.8 mile-an-hour fastball from Aroldis Chapman. Over the yard, over the fence, out of the park to tie the game up. He gets my second star. Those two guys are legit, and it makes having Moncada seem like, Moncada would be nice, but we got Chris Sale, and we got these 2 studs. I'm fine. So, there's that. But, I mean, it's hard, even as negative as I am, and it's hard to really see. It's hard to really see that many faults outside of Friday, which was absolutely horrendous. And now I'm looking at this. This is from a Mass Live story. This was after Friday night's game. So it could be even more. But the Red Sox have run into 64 outs on the bases this season, compared to Houston, who were at 49 by Friday. And John Farrell, idiot Farrell. Don't even get me started on him. That guy's a clown. He's a joke, and he should not be managing this team. But he had said he wants the Red Sox to be more aggressive. The team doesn't have the power that it had in the past with David Ortiz in the lineup. They don't really have a real power threat. Hanley was supposed to be that. He's been terrible. Xander Bogaerts, I probably would feel more confident with Pablo Sandoval at the plate. Shout out to Pablo, hitting the dinger yesterday. Whatever. I would feel more confident with Pablo Sandoval at the dish right now over Xander Bogaerts. Got into talking about him last podcast, just how bad he's been. He's still batting 185, 187 since the All Star break. I'm not going to get into him because it really depresses me because I'm a huge Bogaerts guy. 2 years ago, if you told me Mookie or Xander, I would have said Xander. I put a premium on shortstops. I love shortstops who can hit. You don't have to be Ozzie Smith with the glove, even though that would be appreciated. But Troy Tulowitzki was always one of my favorite players. He obviously has slowed down. I think Coors Field was the reason why he was so great, but he was a great defender. Whatever. Enough of these tangents about all these other players and stuff. Xander Bogaerts sucks. I have no confidence in him, and I would DL him and keep Nunez in the lineup. He's a bad defender all around, so I'd put him at short for a game, see how he does. Maybe do a rotation of Nunez and Holt at short. Pedroia's hurt too, so that kind of puts a wrench into it. But I would try to give Bogaerts some days off because he's really been struggling. And back to the point, Red Sox lack the power, so Farrell wants them to keep staying aggressive in order to take more bases and score more runs, but I think it's backfired on them. And I don't care what the metrics say. And if you look at how many extra bases they've gotten, yada, 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 it's frustrating, and it's cost them 64 outs. That is 10 more outs than what would be 2 full games. Excuse me. So they've had more than 2 games worth of outs on the bases, which is pathetic. So, just with that, now the Red Sox will be having their makeup game against Cleveland tonight. And then we'll be going to face the St. Louis Cardinals, who have been wicked hot. Coming into this short mini series, and then we're back to face the Yankees, and then back against the Indians on the road. So this should be really interesting. good news, bad news. We have, looks like 6 at home and then 4 on the road against the Indians. I would like to see us go 6-4, but I've said this since the beginning of the season, since all throughout the year. Last week I said it, and I'm going to keep saying it. It's getting a little redundant, but when it comes to the Red Sox, nothing surprises me. You say, hey, Joe, they're going to win 10 of their next 10 games. I'd be like, probably not, but I wouldn't completely rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out if they went 8-2 in the next 10 games against the Cardinals, Indians, and Yankees. Or if you said, Joe, they're going to go 2-8, I'd be like, wouldn't surprise me. And that's just how I feel about this team. I think they're inconsistent. I think they're talented. I think their lineup is weak. I don't have confidence in them up in the clutch. Rafael Devers came through, Benintendi came through, but I still Pedroia up until his DL stint was their only clutch producer. So that's where I stand on that. It's really a crapshoot. And like I said, the MLB is wide open. No team has really stood out to me. Obviously, the Dodgers have been great in the National League. But in the playoffs, I think it's a totally different animal. So, either way, I think they have a decent chance to go all the way. But I think they secured a playoff spot, but they could lose first round easy. So, that is my thoughts on the Red Sox. Next up, the Patriots. They played their first preseason game. Not going to lie, I did not watch. I watched, little bits and pieces of it, in and out, doing stuff, whatever. I paid no attention to the preseason. It literally means nothing. I know Garoppolo played well. Saw his numbers. He's playing with scrubs against scrubs. Think about it this way. The roster for week 1 of the preseason is 90 men. You have to whittle that down to 53. So almost half of the guys playing on the roster will not be part of the team. They don't want to risk injuries. Conventional wisdom, third preseason game is the one where the starters play, and they'll play for a quarter or a half, whatever. Still doesn't mean much to me, but I'm not going to change my opinion. This team's a juggernaut. They're going to be they're going to be the best team in football, and I think they have a very good shot at going 16-0. And it's going to be very fun to watch. I'm not going to get into what I've said a bunch of times. You can listen to my old podcast. But I really don't think you can gather much from a preseason game. Maybe some dumb GMs across the league will, and they'll see Jimmy Garoppolo keeps playing well and try to trade for him. But I'm going to believe Adam Schefter, where he said Bill Belichick wouldn't take 4 first-rounders for him. So with Jimmy off the market, who's really there to prove himself that in the preseason that's really going to make a difference for Patriots fans? And I really don't see anyone that significant who in the first week or 2 of the preseason is going to do much to change our mind about anything. So that's that. Just thinking, I heard Coney Ealy has been not playing too well. The practice hasn't really been out there. Might be in Bill Belichick's kind of crosshairs, I guess. But he's talented. It's a 1-year deal. You literally moved up 8 spots. So people say the Patriots traded their second-round pick. They went from the 64th pick to the 72nd pick. They moved down 8 slots and took a flyer on a guy on the last year of his rookie deal on the cheap. So whatever happens with that, unless one of those guys drafted between 64 and 71 turns out to be a Hall of Famer, not really going to affect us that much. But the front 7 is a little shaky. You have Trey Flowers, Ely, Sheard's gone, Barkevius Mingo's gone, although he didn't do much. Ninkovich retired. You still got Brown in the middle. But it's shaky up front. But one thing I want to say, I still think the defense is going to be better just because of the addition of Stephon Gilmore and still having Malcolm Butler. In my opinion, the secondary is the most important part of a defense, and the Patriots have one of the best secondaries in the league. So, as I said earlier, I think the Patriots will go 16-0. I think they have, or at least they have a very good shot at it. I wouldn't doubt it. But I want to talk about the '07 team versus this team. And one thing I realized is I think this team is deeper than the '07 team, especially on offense. But the '07 team was the first football team that I ever really followed. I was 8 years old when this season started. I was 8 years old throughout the season. And just watching them really just made me love football, love offense. Seeing Tom Brady play with Randy Moss. I remember I was in a gym class, or it was I was the after school program or whatever after the Patriots traded for Randy Moss, and we were all just like talking about him. And I mean, we're 8-year-old kids. All we knew was Madden, that Randy Moss was the best receiver in the game, and he just made ridiculous catches with the terrible graphics. But it was just so amazing to see this team. And then the crushing defeat, watching them, I think that even though I think Brady and Gostkowski are the only players from the 2007 team still here, I think obviously the most important members of the organization are Belichick and Brady. I think that they were a little cocky. They didn't have the 10-year drought without a Super Bowl, and I think they thought they were invincible. But they can still, I think they learned from it. Brady's now 40 years old. The end could come anytime. I think they're going to really try to go for it. Maybe not go for 16-0, but I think that they're not going to take anything for granted. And I think that was the big downfall of the Patriots. When I think they asked Brady, "Are you going to be held to 20 points or whatever?" And he said, "Or 17 points." He's like, "No way." Little arrogance from Tom, which was I think he was 30, which is mature, but I think he was always mature. So I think once he kind of got the taste of, he's a 3-time Super Bowl winner. Now he just started going with Giselle, the supermodel wife or girlfriend at the time, and going from a player who put up good stats on a great team to being a player with the most touchdowns in a season ever. Having the flashiest offense in history. I think that kind of got to him, but I don't think Brady's going to lose focus at all. He's laser focused, and he's Psycho Tom, and he's ready to take the bull by the horns and really make this season work. And this team is excellent. Other than the front four, which I mentioned, I really don't see a flaw. The linebacking core, you re-signed Hightower. You have Van Noy. David Harris is a very unheralded upgrade. He's been he was great for the Jets for the past 9-10 years. He is solid, and he can sometimes provide some pass rush. He's not just solely a middle linebacker. He's very versatile. He lost a step in his quickness, but he's still a very solid player. So I think this team has what it takes. And I don't know, and I know Jim Murray of Felger and Maz doesn't want them to go 16-0 because he fears it'll hurt them in the playoffs. I don't know how I feel, because part of me, going into the Super Bowl with the perfect season on the line, it would just be gut-wrenching, and I don't even know if I could enjoy the game. But I could never enjoy a Super Bowl when the Patriots play, or any postseason game for that matter, unless there was like the Houston game this year, which I got a little scare. But next podcast, as we get closer and closer to the season, I'll kind of do a bigger breakdown of each position. I know Phil Perry, friend of the show, on the Game Time Decision podcast before merging with Guy Boston. He was been on the show a couple times. He's writing articles breaking down 2007 and 2017. Definitely give that a read. He's great. I love Phil Perry. Just thought I'd give that out there, even though he's on probably the biggest local network doing writing for their website and has thousands and thousands of followers on Twitter, and I'm just doing this podcast, and I don't even know how many viewers I'll get or listeners, whatever, but whatever. Just go check out Phil Perry. He's great. And just now, little last thoughts on basketball. New jerseys coming out from Nike. I like them. One thing I will say, while you still can go on NBA Shop, scoop up some of the old Adidas jerseys. They're having ridiculous sales. I got some swingman jerseys. They're normally $109.99. Got them for like $20, like official swingman jerseys from NBA Shop. But you have to get players on their old teams and stuff. But I actually got a Blake Griffin, who hasn't switched teams, swingman jersey. Looking at it right now, it's really big on me. It's an XL, so it's like a dress almost. But it's pretty good. I have the tag on it, keeping the original tag. Got it for $21. So there's that when it comes to the jerseys. Little tip. So I'm not going to do a real personal section because I don't really have that many stories. Worked the Target this week. Didn't really save that many lives, but saving you money right now. So go on NBA Shop. You'll get some really big jerseys, but they'll look cool and they'll save you a lot of money. And who knows, maybe 20, 30 years from now, jerseys will be worth a lot of money. If you save them, keep the tag on. That's what I would do. And you can still wear them if you want. Fresh, look good, whatever. No big deal. And also, on the Celtics, schedule coming out this week. They can win the East if LeBron gets hurt. I know you're thinking, you think the Celtics are going to win the East? No, as long as LeBron James is in the East. Celtics have no shot of winning it. He's still that great. I don't care if Kyrie gets traded. Maybe if Kyrie gets traded for a minimal return and Kevin Love gets hurt, they'll have a puncher's chance. Still wouldn't give them the edge. But, like I've said, I would trade Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and a non-Brooklyn pick for Kyrie the more I think about it. Isaiah Thomas really is a really good sixth man, the best sixth man in the league if he was one. If they would put him there, people say it's disrespectful to put Isaiah off the bench, but you're giving him more touches. If he was playing within the offense with Hayward and Horford, he would kind of, I'm not going to say disturb the flow, because I know he's very good off ball, but I think he'd be taking too many shots away, where if you put him on the second unit with a bunch of defensive-oriented guys, then he would be able to be the volume scorer he was last year and be effective and dominate second units. So his numbers would be excellent, and he'd still be playing 30 minutes a night, which is what he should be playing, because I think it's good to keep him rested for the playoffs. He played around 33 last year. I would start Marcus Smart, but obviously it's not going to happen, so it's not even worth wasting my breath about. Just like to hear some hate from Celtics fans after me saying IT is a six-man, but whatever. So that's it for this podcast. Tried to keep it short and sweet. We'll be looking to do one later in the week or next week. Hopefully, Red Sox keep winning, and if they continue to suck, and if they lose some more games, then I'll definitely do one. If they win, I'll wait for them to lose. But that's about it. Thank you guys for listening, and have a great day.